Look, I know how this sounds. I really do. The headline, the whispers, the way people look at me now, it's a lot. And yeah, what I did, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't kind. It certainly wasn't what anyone expected from _me_ from Alice. But before you jump straight to judgment, before you decide I'm some kind of monster, just hear me out. Give me 5 minutes, okay? Because there's always more to the story than the public version, more than the conveniently ugly soundbite. You think you know, but trust me, you don't. Not really. We had been together since college, Mark and I, 10 years. A decade. Can you even imagine? We met at some god-awful frat party. Or maybe it was a study group. Honestly, the memories blur. And from the moment he looked at me with those earnest, slightly confused brown eyes, everyone just knew. Mark was the stable one. The good one. He was the kind of guy your mother dreamed of, the kind your friends envied. Reliable.
Kind.
Thoughtful. He remembered your birthday, your favorite coffee order, the exact moment you felt overwhelmed. He was the anchor, the safe harbor, the one who always showed up. And I loved him for it, truly. Or I thought I did. We built a life, a beautiful, perfectly framed picture of a life. The nice house in the suburbs, the 2 cars, the dog, the perfectly manicured lawn. And then came the children.
3 of them.
3 beautiful, boisterous, utterly demanding little people who filled every corner of our existence with noise and laughter and a relentless, exhausting need. Our friends, our families, they all said we were the ideal couple, the gold standard. And on paper, we were. We were the envy of the potluck, the couple everyone pointed to and said, "See? Love does last." But the thing about perfect pictures is that they can also feel like perfect prisons. All that reliability, it started to feel like predictability. All that kindness, it morphed into a kind of quiet, suffocating sameness. Mark was so attentive, so there that it felt like I couldn't breathe. Every conversation was gentle, every decision consensus-driven, every conflict diffused with logic and reason before it could ever ignite into something real, something passionate, something messy. Our scheduled date nights, always the same restaurant, always the same polite conversation about the children or work, began to feel less like romance and more like an obligation. A box to be checked. Even our intimacy, once fiery, had settled into a comfortable, almost clinical routine. It was all so nice. So unbelievably, soul-crushingly nice. And I, Alice, the girl who once dreamed of backpacking through South America and writing a novel, felt like I was slowly, quietly disappearing. Vanishing into a beige landscape of responsible adulthood, a life dictated by school runs, meal prep, and bedtime stories. I would look at Mark, so content, so utterly devoted, and feel a surge of something cold and sharp. Resentment. What's wrong with me? I'd think that this perfect, beautiful life makes me feel like I'm drowning. That his unwavering love feels less like a warm embrace and more like a weighted blanket I couldn't shed. And then he walked in. Not literally walked in, of course, but he appeared. Online, at first. A mutual connection through a niche interest group, something abstract, philosophical, something Mark would have politely tolerated for 5 minutes before steering the conversation back to mortgage rates or pediatricians. Leo was everything Mark wasn't. He was unpredictable, chaotic, wickedly intelligent in a way that danced on the edge of arrogance. He was a musician, a photographer, a storyteller, someone who lived on impulse and thrived on disorder. He saw the world in shades of wild, electric color where Mark saw sensible pastels. He laughed at my dark jokes, understood the cynical undercurrents of my humor, challenged my perspectives, and made me feel seen. Truly seen for the first time in years. Like someone had finally peered behind the polite mask of perfect suburban mom and recognized the restless, yearning spirit beneath. It started innocently enough, just a few messages. Then late-night texts, long phone calls when Mark was asleep beside me, blissfully unaware. The thrill of it, the sheer audacity of it, was intoxicating. Each secret exchange was a jolt of pure adrenaline, a reminder that I was still alive, still capable of feeling something raw and exhilarating. I was doing something forbidden, something just for me. And the more I did it, the more I craved it. The lies came easily, slipping out like oil. Working late, girls' night, volunteering at the school, Mark, sweet, trusting Mark, never questioned it. He'd just nod, tell me to be safe, maybe bring me a cup of tea before I left. His trust, which once felt like a comfort, now felt like a tacit permission slip. A green light to go further. He was so busy being the perfect husband, the perfect father, that he didn't see me slipping away, piece by painful piece. Or maybe he just didn't want to. I convinced myself he wouldn't understand, that he couldn't possibly grasp this profound hunger for something more, something that wasn't beige. He wouldn't understand that I wasn't ditching him. I was choosing me. The first time I met Leo in person, it was like stepping into a different dimension. We didn't go for a quiet coffee or a discreet dinner. We went to a speakeasy, a hidden bar with live jazz and flickering candlelight. He talked about his travels, his art, his dreams. He asked about mine, not in the polite, fleeting way Mark would, but with an intense, burning curiosity. He made me feel electric, vibrant, like the woman I was supposed to be, not the one I had become. We talked for hours, until the city went quiet. That night, when I returned to my quiet suburban house, the scent of jazz and something wild clinging to my clothes, and saw Mark sleeping soundly in our bed, the children's muffled snores drifting from their rooms, the contrast was unbearable. This life, my life, felt like a meticulously crafted lie. And Leo, he was the truth. The chaotic, terrifying, irresistible truth. It wasn't a quick decision, not really. It was a slow, agonizing slide down a slippery slope. Every secret meeting, every stolen touch, every passionate kiss in the shadowed corners of the city chipped away at the foundation of my life with Mark. I told myself it was love, real love, the kind of soul-shattering connection I'd read about in novels, but never believed existed. This wasn't just an affair. This was an awakening. A shedding of the old, predictable skin for something vibrant and new. The stable love I had with Mark, the comfortable routine, the beautiful children, it all began to feel like a trap, a cage of my own making. And Leo, he was the key. He validated my restlessness, my profound dissatisfaction. He told me I was wasted, that I deserved to feel this alive, this passionate, all the time. He spun dreams of a life unburdened by responsibility, a life lived purely for art and experience. A 5-year trip around the world, maybe just the two of us, discovering ourselves, creating. It wasn't about abandoning my babies, not in my mind. It was about finding myself so I could be a better mother, a better person. That's what I told myself, anyway. That's what Leo helped me believe. The point of no return was a blur of emotion and recklessness. I left. Not with a note, not with a conversation. I just left. I told Mark over the phone, a cowardly, mumbled confession from a hotel room across town, that I was unhappy, that I needed something more, that I was choosing myself. I told him I needed space, that I couldn't be the person he needed, not anymore. I didn't mention Leo, not specifically. I just said I needed to find myself, needed to breathe. And the kids. I said I loved them, of course. I did love them. But I believed, truly believed, that this was temporary. That I would come back, transformed, whole, and be a better, more present mother. That this grand, 5-year odyssey of self-discovery with Leo was essential for my soul. That was the fantasy, wasn't it? The fantasy where you get to have your cake, eat it too, and then come back for a second helping. That I would return from this trip, enlightened, and everyone would understand, forgive, and welcome me back with open arms. But the fantasy shattered with a brutality I never could have anticipated. Not long after I made my grand exit, when the dust was beginning to settle, when I was picturing our idyllic bohemian life with Leo, he started to pull away. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed. The intense calls became short texts, the spontaneous adventures turned into, maybe next week, and then, finally, the truth. He had a girlfriend. A long-term girlfriend. He had told me, he claimed, that they were on a break, that it was complicated bullshit. He'd never mentioned her. He'd spun a web of convenient half-truths, always leaving out the parts that would contradict my desperate narrative. He'd been as much a mirage as my own grand plan. It was just a fling for him, a temporary distraction, a little bit of fun on the side. When the reality of my monumental mess became clear, my marriage in ruins, my children left behind, he wanted no part of it. He blamed me, actually. Said I'd gotten too serious, too demanding. Said I'd ruined the fun, the passionate, exciting artist who had seen me, who promised me a life of adventure, simply vanished, leaving me stranded in the wreckage of my own making, the trip over before it had even truly begun. And then came the collapse. Not a slow, gentle implosion, but an earthquake. I thought Mark would be devastated, begging, pleading. He wasn't. He was cold, methodical. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He simply said, "I know," and then he showed me the text logs, the location data, the carefully cataloged photos of Leo and me at the jazz bar, at the secluded park, leaving the hotel. He hadn't been ignorant at all. He'd been watching, learning, preparing. He had known for months. While I was weaving my elaborate web of lies, congratulating myself on my cleverness, he was quietly, systematically gathering the evidence that would demolish my life. He'd been taking pictures of the children every day, documenting their routines, their milestones, the life I was missing. He just looked at me with those honest brown eyes, devoid of all their previous warmth, and said, "You chose. And now I choose." There was no negotiation, no tearful reconciliation attempt. Just a swift, clinical execution. He had already found a new place, arranged for the kids, spoken to his lawyer. He moved out within a week. Took everything that mattered, everything that was truly ours. The children. He filed for full custody, citing my abandonment, my 5-year trip into self-indulgence. And he got it. Easily. The evidence was irrefutable. My so-called spiritual journey was just a sordid affair in the eyes of the law, a clear dereliction of duty. The social isolation hit me like a physical blow. Mark's friends, people I had considered my own friends for a decade, simply evaporated. They didn't answer my calls, they unfriended me on social media, they avoided me like a plague. Even my own friends, the ones I had confided in, the ones who had sometimes, perhaps unwittingly, validated my unhappiness, grew distant. They mumbled platitudes, offered vague promises of catching up, but the invitations stopped coming. The group chats went silent. My parents, who had always been my staunchest defenders, who had always indulged my artistic whims and excused my youthful impetuosity, were devastated. My mother, usually so effusive, could barely meet my eye. My father, a man of few words, simply said, "You broke his heart, Alice." And theirs. You broke their hearts. He didn't yell, he didn't preach, he just said that. And it was worse than any shouting match. I tried to explain, to justify, to make them see my side, my need for authenticity, but they just looked at me with pity and a quiet, profound disapproval. There was no defense from them, no understanding. Just the cold, hard wall of their disappointment. I tried to reach out to Mark, to apologize, to explain what I was going through. He didn't answer. His sister, Clara, who had always been so warm, so welcoming, answered one of my calls. "Don't bother, Alice," she said, her voice like ice. "He's doing fine. More than fine. The children are thriving. They don't need your chaos. They don't need you. You made your bed. Now sleep in it." It was a gut punch. A truth bomb. And it wasn't even the worst of it. The worst was seeing him. Months later, at a local park, I saw Mark. Not broken, not devastated, not even sad. He was laughing, genuinely laughing, throwing a frisbee with our youngest, holding the hand of another woman. She was beautiful, radiant, and he looked lighter, happier. The weight of me clearly lifted from his shoulders. He looked like the man I'd first fallen for, but brighter, unburdened. And the children, my children, looked so happy, so secure. My heart twisted with a bitter, searing envy. He had rebuilt his life, stronger, better, without me, while mine felt like a pile of scattered dust. I learned later that he's engaged.
To that woman. Her name is Sarah.
She's an architect. She volunteers at the local animal shelter. She's building a new life with my family. My parents talk about her with a warmth they no longer reserve for me. They send me photos of the children, dressed up for school plays, birthday parties, holidays. With Sarah, not me. Always with Sarah, always with Mark, always looking like the perfect happy family. The one I abandoned. The one I thought was suffocating me. The 3 babies I left behind for a fantasy, for a promised 5-year trip of self-discovery that lasted barely 5 months. And now, they're growing up without me, and they seem fine.
More than fine.
They seem happy. Do I regret it? I don't know. Part of me, the part that's still reeling from the loneliness, the isolation, the sheer emptiness of my life now, screams, yes. 1,000 times, yes. But then there's another part, the stubborn, bruised part that still believes in the profound, desperate need that drove me. The part that says, I had to know what it was like to feel that alive, even if it meant burning everything to the ground. Mark, he couldn't handle the real me, the messy, complicated me who wanted more than just a safe, beige existence. He didn't understand that passion can be destructive, that true self-discovery isn't always pretty. He was content with the picture. I wanted a painting, even if it was smeared and chaotic. Maybe I was selfish. Yeah, probably. Definitely. But what's wrong with wanting to breathe? What's wrong with wanting to feel something beyond polite contentment? What's wrong with wanting to escape the slow death of a perfectly good life? It was a disaster, a monumental F-up. And I'm alone now. Really, truly alone. And sometimes late at night, when the silence is deafening, I wonder if that's the price you pay for wanting to be truly, terribly alive.